Hello, friends. Welcome into this NFL Daily Special Edition. I am Tom Downey. Alongside me is Cam Rogers. Cam, the NFL owners have announced their new national anthem policy, one that probably actually won't end this debate once and for all. So here's the breakdown of the new anthem policy for the NFL. All team and league personnel, players, coaches, training staff, whatever, they all now have to stand during the national anthem. Now, if you don't want to stand, those players can go stay in the locker room instead. And if players kneel or sit during the anthem, Cam, they will be fined. NFL teams can kind of have their own subset of rules based on how they handle some of the player stuff, as long as it fits in with the NFL's overarching policy. And I think most notably, Commissioner Goodell can give quote-unquote appropriate discipline to players that violate the new policy.
Yeah, Tom, it's kind of quasi pre-2009 here when, of course, nobody was on the field during the national anthem, and now there is the potentiality for some players to remain in the locker room, some players to remain on the field and stand for the national anthem. So in that regard, you have the freedom for being outside or being inside, but if you are on the field and you are kneeling, then the teams suffer. So this is different than the policy beforehand, Tom. Of course, the policy before this was, well, you were encouraged to stand. Now it is etched in legislation. You have to if you're out there.
And I'll make note of this as well before we kind of go too far in depth on what the NFLPA said, was that there had been the report that the NFL was considering having it be a penalty if you knelt during the national anthem. Mike, a little theory here, and I don't even know if it's a full-on conspiracy theory. NFL leaked that to make this policy look a little bit better.
Ooh, that is actually not a bad theory at all, because that 15-yard penalty leak that came out, just an awful idea. I mean, I railed on it earlier today on my show, and just not the way to go about things. Now, in terms of this, Tom, they talked about how it's a compromise. Well, is it? The NFLPA seems to not think so.
Yeah, NFLPA says this is not a compromise. I think one of the quotes from one of their head public speakers was something along the lines of, oh, you know what? I don't know who they compromised with, maybe with themselves, but it definitely wasn't us, because the NFL did not discuss the policy with the NFLPA. So at least from the players' perspective, how is this a compromise if we weren't involved in the discussion whatsoever? And the NFLPA says, look, we're going to fight anything that conflicts with the CBA, and if it impacts the players' rights, we're going to fight those as well. So for those of you hoping, hey, we're done with the anthem debate and now we can just stick to football, might not actually be the case, Cam.
Yeah, the NFLPA released a statement that read, in part, we will challenge any aspect that is inconsistent with the collective bargaining agreement here. And look, the NFLPA has every right to fight this if they feel that it infringes upon the rights of some of these players and so on. So it's interesting. In the statement, they put policy in quotes, Tom, as if to kind of give some sort of indictment on how it's really not a policy.
Yeah,
exactly. So I was kind of thinking of it to myself in air quotes, like that's probably how they were doing it out loud.
NFLPA spokesman George Atala said, maybe this new rule proposal that is being voted on is a compromise, in quotes, between the NFL office and club CEOs on various sides of the issues, but certainly not with player leadership. We were not part of the discussion. So the NFLPA, as has often been the case in the past couple of years with the NFL, they're not getting along because the NFLPA feels like they're not actually involved in the discussion that directly impacts their players.
Right, absolutely. I mean, what is the takeaway with the NFLPA's response? This isn't going away, folks. Even though this is now etched in legislation by the NFL, this will continue to be fought as we continue throughout mandatory minicamp, Tom, and training camp and preseason, heck, into the regular season as well. This debate will continue on, especially when you have players in the national spotlight continuing this debate, i.e. a Colin Kaepernick and Reid. We'll talk about them later. But the national anthem policy as we stand right now, I still think will be very divisive, will continue to broaden that chasm, if you will, between the NFL and the NFLPA. And look, I didn't think there was ever going to be any full-on perfect solution where everybody's a winner here. So it's really difficult on the NFL owners. But you know what's interesting, Tom? They all voted unanimously.
Yeah, 32-0.
Yes.
All agreed. Yeah, let's go ahead and make this policy. You mentioned Kaepernick there and Reid as well. They're also big factors in this whole anthem policy and anthem debate because Colin Kaepernick kind of began the whole thing when he first sat, and then after discussing with Nate Boyer, an NFL player and former Green Beret, said, actually, I'm going to kneel during the national anthem, all designed to protest racial inequality and police brutality. Of course, that initial message, Cam, in reality has been completely lost, I think, in the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever, that we've had this big debate. And Kaepernick, of course, did not play in the NFL last year. He's filed a grievance, so has Eric Reid, and I think those grievances are a big factor here in the NFL's whole handling of the national anthem debate.
Right. Why is this still part of the national discussion? Because of the likes of Eric Reid and Colin Kaepernick having these ongoing grievance cases against the NFL, essentially alleging that all 32 NFL owners colluded against them to keep them out of the league. And in that vein, Tom, why do we have this policy official? The NFL doesn't want to deal with any more grievance cases. They want something locked in and official in terms of what the players can expect in regards to consequences. Now the players and the teams know. Beforehand, they really didn't.
It is funny to me, and we'll bring up here some of the other major sports policies. Only the NFL has this overarching problem, which I think kind of ends up getting put on the blame in terms of the NFL's actual leadership, because it's not been an issue for the MLB. It's not been an issue for the NHL. It's not been an issue for the NBA. NFL clearly trying to adopt more of an NBA-style policy here. Hasn't been an issue for the MLS. But the NFL keeps having this issue almost every game where there's just been so much debate and uproar, maybe in part because the NFL is the biggest sport of the group.
You know, it's something to watch for, Tom, and all you folks watching the program right now, the president's response. Because President Trump will come out publicly very soon, we feel, in regards to this new policy, because he has been very vocal on Twitter and with the press about this ongoing national anthem debate as well. And as we continue to talk, Tom, we want you guys hitting us up in the comments section as well. Would you want your favorite NFL team to sign Colin Kaepernick as a backup?
You know, does the policy maybe help Kaepernick because now he has to do this in order to get signed? Like there's no more room for debate amongst Kaepernick and the team about what he should do for the anthem.
Well, we know what the consequences are now, and so that's what's really important to think about here as we kind of go forward.
But do we though? Because it's appropriate discipline. Now I would assume that means fines, but we know that the NFL in general has had some issues with handing out punishment in the past and sticking to what the CBA says in terms of giving this amount of games or not. All it says is appropriate discipline. Didn't really say what appropriate discipline is. I would assume that's a fine, but could it possibly be a suspension if a player keeps doing it? Like I think immediately of Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch is going to do whatever he feels like doing. Is he going to run afoul of this new policy quickly? And what will that be for him? Is it going to be a wallet impact or an on-the-field impact?
Well, you know what? There could be divisions within the locker room, Tom. Yeah. If some players choose to remain in the locker room and other players decide to go out and stand, and let's say after a bad loss, for example, you know, one side of the standers, if you will, start attacking the kneelers because there's no team chemistry or anything like that, because team chemistry means a lot in the game of football, especially in terms of, you know, if you're looking at the defense and you're looking at the offense single-handedly here. So, look, it could create some sort of relationship problems within the locker room. I thought the 15-yard penalty certainly would have because you see the repercussions on the field.
That negatively impacts your team in a heartbeat.
And also, more divisions between team's leadership and the players, because it's going to hurt the leadership's wallets if the players are kneeling while they're on the field. So it's going to get murkier and muddier and dirtier as we go throughout the offseason here, Tom, and into the regular season in terms of relationships, because there is no broad stroke here that will perfectly fix this, and so many people have so many different opinions. We're on a spectrum here from the kneelers to the standers, if you will.
I know a lot of people don't like their politics mixing with sports, which I think is reality, is what's happened here. But when it comes to politics and this type of thing, there is no one thing that makes everyone happy. So no matter what, you're going to have various sides who are not happy with the anthem policy. Some will think it doesn't go far enough. Some will think it goes too far. I'm sure, unfortunately, this debate's not going to be over anytime soon.
It certainly will not be, and it will be a point of discussion as we go throughout here, and certainly going to be a point of discussion during the regular season when we finally see for the first time how this policy actually goes into practice. Who comes out, who stays in, who gets fined, which teams are labeled as the kneelers, which teams are labeled as the standers. That's kind of what I'm foreseeing here, Tom. It's not something we want because we don't want to have to be talking about kneeling. We want to talk about football.
I agree. And, of course, we'll see plenty of not nice comments on both sides coming in on social media. The Twitter replies already show that as well in a big, big way. All right, folks, I'm Tom Downey. Follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. That is Cam Rogers. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. Again, let us know what you think of the NFL's new anthem policy in the comments. And until then, we'll see you next time.